Hello and welcome to this technical training webinar on the new GP6000 series HMI from Proface, and this is discussing the new standard model. Okay, here's our agenda. We're going to have an overview. We're going to have we're going to discuss some knowledge about the hardware. We're going to go through the system settings, which are quite different in the GP6000 as compared to previous models. We're going to talk a little bit about the software, GP Pro EX version 5. We'll show just a brief slide about some performance test results versus the GP4000. And then just some notes in some related documents. Okay, getting into an overview. So what is the GP6000 series? So this webinar is focused on the GP6000 series standard model. And you can see this is currently supported by the GP Pro EX software. It's being released in 2025. Its focus is on migration as a successor to the, let me get my pointer, as a successor to the GP4000T. And then currently, like I said, it's supported by GP Pro EX, and at a later date will be supported by Blue. Just a note here on the right-hand side, later in 2025, we will be releasing the GP6000 Advanced model, and that is a little bit of a different type of product, and that's going to be the successor of the SP5000. Okay, so again, the main focus of this webinar, if we look at the GP6000 standard model, focus is right here in yellow, and that is, so when we're talking about migrating from the GP4000T, if we prefer a one-to-one migration, then we can for sure look here at the GP6000 standard model on EX or later on Blue. If we want to get more performance and some more functionality, then we can wait and then later migrate to the GP6000 Advanced model. Okay, so taking a little bit of a deeper look here at the lineup for the GP6000, you can kind of see across the board we've got DC models and AC powered models. Everything from here you can see here is a 12-inch. So basically everything from a 6-inch through a 12-inch. Then there's a segmented offer and a coded offer, which we will discuss. Note, the screens are all 4x3 screens, compatible with the 4000T. Here's the different sizes. There's some different resolutions, different still supporting the 2-point matrix touchscreen. Here's the colors. Here's some pictures, and then there's some more details. Okay, so speaking about the segmented model, talking about this N2 protection model. What it is a segmented offer basically to live within N2 nitrogen gas environments. And you can see that's what the target application. And you can see there's a couple things going on here. There's some breathing holes to allow pressurization of a cabinet. And then there is also a protection so that the screens will not darken due to chemical reactions. And if you want some more details, you can kind of pause the video and read the slide. I'm not going to read it word for word. I think it's okay. This slide is talking about the two different sizes. Oh, and maybe I can go back. So that is, I guess that is one thing to point out here for the N2 model that's available in one size, and that's a 12-inch. Okay, so moving on into the coded models, those are available in two different sizes, a 12 and a 10-inch, and these are basically the conformal coded models that we're all used to. And again, so in a 10-inch and a 12-inch to resist corrosive gases, mainly. Okay, here's just some views of what the physical HMIs are looking like from the front and the back. battery slot, pretty standard stuff. 2 Ethernet ports, SD card slot. Okay, here is the external view of the 10 and 12-inch units. One little unique thing here about these, I believe, is this little access door in the back where you can access the SD card slot, the battery, I believe, in the USB micro B. Switch to my pointer again. Here's just what you get in the package. Okay, so as far as certifications go, the intention is that the GP6000 standard models are planned to have all the same certifications as the GP4000 series. And then basically, please check the Proface.com website under the product information to check the current status of certifications. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper dive into the hardware specifications. I've basically highlighted some key points, right? So you have better resolution in the GP6000. You have more colors. You have more levels of brightness. You have more memory. You could see 64 megabytes, and then just by making software changes, we're going to take full, we're going to use up all the memory that we have available. Okay, and you can kind of see if you want to look through all these other specs, feel free to pause the video. Okay, here are a couple of other ones, right? So GP6000 in the old series was just 1 Ethernet port. Now we've got 2 Ethernet ports standard. We have a little bit, we have a better SD card slot because we're supporting larger capacity SD cards. Okay, and again, if you wish to see any of these other specifications, feel free. Okay, easy and fast installations using the same installation, and the key point is it's using the same cutout dimensions as the standard GP4000T models. And then here a note on the side is, but not yet with portrait mode. So be careful. We can't migrate if you're using portrait mode. We cannot migrate yet. Okay. Now let's take a look at what is a sort of a large change in the GP6000 series, and that is how the system settings are functioning and working. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is the out-of-box experience for the 6000 is different than the 4000. So you could see this is what the startup image is going to look like, and then it is going to basically want you to create a administrator password. Okay, but you can bypass this, but then at certain points it's just going to ask you to create things. You're just not going to be able to get around it. But at this point you can skip it. Okay, after you create the account or skip, you're basically going to go into the welcome page, and now we agree to the whatever they are, the terms, let's say, and now we're into the screen where we go to the system settings, where we are able to configure the hardware settings such as the IP address, date and time, etc. Okay. So what are the different things that you will see in the GP6000 now is in the system settings menu. That is going to have a different look and feel to it, and you can see here are all the different things that you are able to do and look at in the new system settings, right? So there's a system monitor, of course, date and time, language. We can reset, we can do a backup and restore, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then we can do things, we can configure displays. Of course, we can configure the Ethernet settings, passwords, user accounts, firewalls, and then enable or disable a future edge connector functionality. Okay, so you can see how are we entering these new system settings. So what you'll see is when you initially go into the offline menu, it will look exactly like what you've seen before in the GP4000 series, except that you will have certain there will be another button down here called System Settings. Okay, so a lot of these settings are inherited, so some of these settings won't change, but many of the system settings which we just showed are now accessed in this by using this method here in the offline menu. Okay, so we have a video within a video here, and let me play this so you can kind of see, you can look at what this looks like live. So you go ahead and play it. Yep. Okay, so that's what that looks like now. That's a live view of what that looks like in the offline menu. Go ahead and let me move on. So this slide here is just showing you, remember, kind of this is what it looked like in the 4000. We went to just basically in the offline menu, we set the Ethernet settings here. Now what we're doing is kind of going in a little bit of an extra step, but now we're going into a different, going from the offline menu into the system settings where we're setting the Ethernet settings. Okay, different things here. It's just showing you correlations between what we had in the 4000 series. Here it's showing you the difference between where the touch panel calibration is between the two different series. Okay, this is showing you about the brightness. So the brightness control is in the system settings, and there's just a bit of a different, you kind of have to flip the logic a little bit from between what's done in the system settings versus what is done in the GP Pro EX settings. So you could see it's basically flipped. So this is maintaining compatibility, but this terminology on this side is different. Bit of a quirk. Okay, so here's kind of a major point to remember or to note about using the GP6000 series. So previously with the other series, you had the ability to do a memory loader function where you created basically a backup file on your computer with GP Pro EX. Okay, and now what we're doing is to create a backup restore function in the GP6000. You're actually not utilizing GP Pro EX at all. You're doing this completely in the system settings where you're going to do a backup and restore process that will back up and restore the system. You can kind of look at it like an image to a USB stick. Okay, so the main point that I'd like to get out there is that as a user now, what you need to make sure you do is that when you are finished with your unit configured and working and all tested and debugged out, at that point you can do a backup, because in the future, if you ever need to restore that, or if you need to get somebody an updated program, or if you need to give them the program, if one of their units fails, or if they have a new unit, etc., you can just give them this backup file, and then they can restore the unit to exactly those same settings. But do note, you do need an HMI to do that. So that's why I want to make the main point is that if you don't do it, and in the future you need to create it, and you don't have an HMI, you're going to have to get an HMI to create that backup file. Okay, so a bit of a complicated point, but hopefully everybody can understand that. Okay, here's just a slide about how that backup and restore is actually what is the actual procedure for that. You can kind of see it's you're doing that in the like I said, in the system settings. You actually have a backup restore setting right here, which is obviously where you're going to go to execute these settings, and you're going to walk through doing that. Okay, I'm not going to go through all these different things. If you're interested to see the procedure, you can certainly follow these steps by pausing the slide or pausing the video. Okay. Okay, this is just another piece to that is, of course, this does have the ability to restore then to multiple units with that same backup data. Okay, but you can notice it's same model, same versions, and same passwords. Okay. Okay, now switching gears a bit, let's talk a little bit about the software that we're using to support the GP6000 standard model. Okay, so that's basically GP Pro EX version 5, and you can kind of see GP Pro EX version 5 has a little bit of a different look and feel from the previous versions. You could see here in the list of supported HMIs, you could see the GP6000 Standard series is added. Okay. Okay, one thing to make note of, case we do have some unsupported features currently with the first release of GP Pro EX version 5, and you could kind of see some major features here, so please make note of this. This is something we want to take care of as soon as possible. We do know in the next release, version 5.01, due later this year, that we will definitely support the remote HMI, but all these other features are to be determined. So most likely some of them in 5.01, but probably not all. Okay, just a brief slide about performance test results between the 4000 and the 6000. Okay, so we compared basically a GP4000T, this is the 12-inch model, to the GP6000 Standard. You could see that the startup time is fairly well improved by 6 seconds. There you can see it's almost 50%. You can see the screen changes are quite better. The screen refreshes are quite better. And then it looks like the data logging is still at our 100 milliseconds, which makes sense because that's as fast as we can set the sampling to. Okay. Okay, so some just notes and limitations. Of course, so now we do have better resolution in the GP6000. So of course, what we need to make sure we do is we're going to have to do some things depending on how we designed our original project for the 4000. We may have to do some adjustments in our 6000 project. There is a convert resolution setting when you do convert from one resolution to another. So part of that will be taken care of by EX by itself, hopefully, but there will be some things, and that's what's noted here in this box. There are some things that you may have to manually, or for sure, you will have to manually adjust some of these settings. So, having to do with global windows, positions, and things like that, things that the software will not automatically adjust. Okay, I think we just have a couple related documents here we're talking about. So there is a replacement guidebook available on Proface.com. So there are guidebooks that kind of walk you through what are the differences between the two units, if there's differences between ports, etc., differences between SD slots, USB ports, etc., and telling you different resolution and things like that. So we've got a 4000 to 6000 series, and then we have a 3000 to 6000 series. Not all of them, so if some others are needed, we can do that on request. Okay. All right. So just a brief video about the new release of the GP6000 Standard Series HMI and a little bit about the supported GP Pro EX version 5. Thanks for watching.